privilege. We have Senator Eric Schmitt from the great state of Missouri, and he is a former Missouri Attorney General. Mr. Schmitt, as always, it's a great pleasure to have you back on the show. And I want to talk about a couple things, sir, with your permission. But look, I look at this Donald Trump indictment and so forth, and apart from all the details and arguments, one of the things that I see, and I'm going to be very honest here because this is a blunt assessment, all right? Biden wants his principal presidential competitor, which is Trump right now. He wants him in jail before the election. He wants him in jail before the election. That is what this is about. And, Senator, let me just play a very quick sound. This is what Biden said on the day of the midterm elections last year. Hang on a second. Take a listen.
We just have to demonstrate that he will not take power if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
There you have it. Now, under the Constitution, blah, 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 they're using the Espionage Act, which is baloney. But I'm just saying that's what he wants. He'll do anything to stop Trump from becoming president. Let's pause there, Senator Schmitt, and get your take on this. I know I'm being blunt, but I really believe Biden wants Trump in jail, and sooner the better.
Yeah, we used to believe in a principle in this country, Larry, that everybody's going to be treated fairly under the law. That principle now, under this Biden administration, has been replaced with the idea that show me the man, I'll show you the crime. This is third world banana republic stuff. If this were happening somewhere else, as you laid out, of course, that not only former president, but the #1 political opponent, the likely nominee for, and I believe will be the nominee for the Republican Party, a prosecutor was appointed to go do a job, and they got this indictment now. And it ought to scare I don't care what your political stripe is, this ought to scare Americans. This is not who we are. This is not the idea you take out political opponents with threatening to throw them in jail for the rest of their life. That's what these charges are. And what American people see is two tiers of justice. They've seen, Hillary Clinton taking baseball bats to cell phones to, completely wiping out hard drives with sensitive, top secret information. They see these same boxes in Joe Biden's garage that Hunter Biden, by the way, has access to, who's clearly compromised by at least, two countries. They see an FBI that interfered in the 2016 election with the Russia hoax. They saw it in 2020 with the Hunter Biden laptop story and working directly with social media companies to suppress that story. And here we go again. And so I think it's important for us to stand up for the principles that made this country great, that we believe in the rule of law. We believe people should be treated fairly under the law. There should be not a two-tier system. But Joe Biden, again, it's all about power and control. That is what's dominating the Democrat Party right now, and Joe Biden's at the tip of the spear.
And I think, Senator, amen to all that, but I think basically Biden would do anything to prevent Trump from becoming president, because Trump, of course, particularly in a second term, knows where the bodies are buried. He will go after the corruption in justice, in FBI, in CIA, in the federal bureaucracy, and so forth and so on. And he says, and he basically said that on the midterms. This was last November. It was November 9th, 2022, the day of the midterm elections. And he says, well, using constitutional principles. Well, they've ginned up this Espionage Act. So, Senator Schmitt, with your patience, sir, I want to play something from Mark Levin, my buddy, who appeared on Sean Hannity last night. Mark, a damn good lawyer who worked in the Justice Department himself many years ago. Both of us are in the Reagan administration. Take a listen to what Mark Levin said, please.
So it gets in front of this Clinton judge, Jackson, in Washington. I'll tell you what she concludes. She says the responding agency, the National Archives, the tapes were Mr. Clinton's personal records, therefore not subject to the Presidential Records Act or the Freedom of Information Act. The government's position was that Congress had decided the president, and the president alone, decides what is presidential record and what isn't. This is why they want to keep talking about the Espionage Act and not the Presidential Records Act.
All right, that's one. Now, do we have a second clip of Levin? Senator, again, I beg your patience. Here's a second clip from Levin.
The Espionage Act has no applicability to this. Tell me, how many people have been prosecuted under the Espionage Act since 1917 who were president or vice president up until today? Zero. Lyndon Johnson took classified information with him. And of course, you have the Hillary Clinton example. You know, Hillary Clinton was never investigated for obstruction.
All right. Senator Schmitt, you were a famous state attorney general in the state of Missouri before you became a senator. And so I'm especially interested in your views about what Levin is saying about the use of the Espionage Act rather than the Presidential Records Act.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And as you mentioned, as a former attorney general, I take this very seriously. I think that our system is dependent on the idea that prosecutors, there's plenty of decisions that I made to not prosecute in addition to prosecute as attorney general. And I think having faith in the people that they're going to use judgment and not weaponize the law against political opponents is fundamental here. And the idea that Donald Trump is somehow akin to the Rosenbergs or a spy, which is what they're using under the Espionage Act here, is ridiculous. And again, it speaks to, you know, Mark mentioned the Clinton case. Again, what people see from this, rightfully so, is that there's a double standard here. There's one standard that applies to the Clintons and the Bidens, and there's another standard that applies to Donald Trump. They're obsessed. They cannot let this go. This is about making Trump pay because he had the audacity to shake things up. And I agree with you. What we need in the White House next, and I'm supporting President Trump, but what we need is somebody who's going to come in and fundamentally dismantle the administrative state. When you know, in your administration previously, there was a 2-for-1 rule. There's a lot of important things that we can do to put power back in the Article 1 branch. The one thing we don't need to do right now is to have these sort of political prosecutions. You know, prosecutions or persecutions in search of a crime. And again, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. This is dangerous stuff, incredibly dangerous stuff. And this road that Joe Biden's going down, I think, is going to have severe implications, not just for this case, which is unjust, but for our republic. But they don't care, Larry. They don't care. They're obsessed with this thing. They want to take Trump out, and they're willing to do anything to do it, and it's wrong.
Senator Schmitt, I've just got a minute. I want to ask you about one more thing quickly. This guy, Jack Smith, prosecutor, got a judge to force one of Trump's former lawyers to violate the attorney-client privilege. And that information apparently is one of the absolute key central points in Jack Smith's prosecution and indictment of Trump. Do you know much about that? What can you tell us about that?
I mean, I've read the indictment. I'm aware of that. I think that is, again, this case is going to take a while. And again, they charge that this isn't going to get decided before the 2024 election. But, you know, Jack Smith did the job he was set out to do by the DOJ that's been completely weaponized. These are all going to be handled in pretrial motions. Those issues are going to be resolved. There's also an allegation from the second person charged here that you know, he's promised, the lawyer was promised more favorable treatment for a federal appointment to the judiciary.
Right.
I mean, so that needs to be fully explored. Again, this is Banana Republic stuff. This is stuff that if we heard about in a third world country or somewhere else, our State Department would be warning Americans about. But it's happening right here, and it's wrong.
Senator Eric Schmitt, can't thank you enough for your views. As a former, as I said, you're a famous state attorney general, so you know something about prosecuting cases. Now you're becoming an influential senator. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it very, very much.
Thanks, Larry.
You bet.